Hello friends, welcome to the DISAT Network. Today we are going to talk about social welfare administration, and for this discussion we have this in the studio Dr. Sanjay Bhatt, professor at Delhi School of Social Work, University of Delhi. He has a teaching experience of more than 3 decades and his specialization includes human resource development, also development issues including majorly children, women and labor. And with this we would like to welcome sir. Thank you for coming, and we request him to begin today's lecture.
Thank you. Dear viewers, in the series of the social work education and training, we have discussion over important methods of social work, and in that series, this is the 6th method of social work which we will be going to discuss today. The social welfare administration as a method of social work practice. You know the uniqueness of the social work profession, that social work profession is very unique. It has certain core values like service, social justice. We have discussed the dignity and birth of the individual or person, the importance of human relationship, integrity, competence. We also have discussed that how person in environment is located and how it requires an help. In another lecture, we have discussed that social work has a mission to promote the social change as per international definition which has been given by the International Federation of Social Workers. And if that context, if we look that social work is a value based practice and it has a global role, it has a general practice perspective, we have to discuss along with the 3 primary methods what we call social case work, social group work and community organization. Besides that, we have 3 auxiliary methods or supporting methods, but social action and social welfare administration. Last one is the social research. So the social welfare administration is equally important method of managing the social welfare services. When we say the managing social welfare services, the important is that we have to look at how from charity, mutual support and from the religious organization, the administration is required in managing social services, managing social welfare services. So in the second stage, when we were having the charity, a concept in UK has arisen what we call scientific charity, and then the issue of management of charity started, and from there we believe that the discipline of social welfare administration emerged. And today when we are traveling into the 3rd and 4th stage of the social work profession, having its focus on charity, welfare, development and empowerment, which we have discussed in the last lectures, we would like to emphasize here that social welfare administration becomes very important. It is indeed a scientific process which promotes the social work practice in the administration. And when we say it promotes social work practice in the administration, especially for the programs which are meant for vulnerable or weaker section of the society and through managing social work processes. So the administration is equally important scientific process through which we delivers the social services to the target group or to the needy person. That's mean, in other words, we can say that social welfare administration is a mechanism which translates social policies or social programs and social legislations into the practice. That's mean what is the intention of doing good or for the well-being of the people. We translate these terminologies, this concept through the process of the administration, and we require the administrative support or administrative mechanism, or rather than we say firstly the understanding of the social welfare administration. While we discuss this, it is important to discuss little bit on the social welfare. how we see the social welfare. Social welfare concept is centered on the social problem and the ways in which society respond to its problem, related to policy, related to legislation, related to problem. And all social interventions that are needed to enhance or maintain social functioning of the human being may be defined as social welfare. That means wherever there is a deficiency of a kind of services which hampers the social functionings of the human being, you require the interventions. And those interventions which combats with the vulnerability of the people, vulnerability of the groups or the individuals, that those social interventions we club them into the social welfare. Even if we very normal, very common meaning, if we go term the social and welfare, that social is related to the people with the individuals, individuals in the group or between the groups or groups in the community, or it's form of a relationship. So the social welfare is basically providing support into that social fabrics or in social web where people find itself deficient in certain respect, and those who are not able to come up having the equal depth. So all collective interventions to meet the certain needs of the people or individual. When I say needs of the individual, here I would like to remind you that need problem paradigm, that when needs are unmet or needs are not fulfilled or when needs are genuinely not responded or resources are not available, they start turning out to be the problem. So in order to serve the wider interest of the individual needs or the people needs or their common needs, the wider interest of the society in that terms is called social welfare. Now if we go a little further, just I am touching upon these the viewpoint of approaches which are used in studying the concept of welfare. Welfare is being studied as a concept of the reform, and right from the Booth and Beveridge, when they have studied the intervention is the idea of the liberal capitalism, and followed by the other research scholars like philosopher Titmuss and Townsend and Denison. So welfare is to be studied as a pattern of the reform. The other very interesting concept or approach is welfare as a citizenship. In the citizenship model, where we have to approach to study the welfare, we said bonding between the development of social services and development of the citizens' right. That's when an individual or at the civil what we call civic rights or civic right, we are developing the institutions which are required for maintaining the issues of civic and political, so kind of a political institution. Similarly, when we are developing the social institution, and for the purpose of their welfare or social issues, we are developing the institution of welfare. So the closely related with the citizenry rights of the individual, and we look into the welfare into that perspective. There is another theory which is called convergence theory, where the role of institutionalization is important, and in industrial society the nature of the social institution can be seen as a pull and push. Pull on the side of the functional necessities and push on the side of the consequences of industrial technology and economy. So bringing the institution into the picture and giving role to the institution for the welfare and studying that from this perspective. There is another approach of functionalist view and Marxist view, which I will not be going in much detail, but just to touching upon that, it depends society as where the system, where Durkheim has seen society as a system, and in system approach we are trying to see the functionalist viewpoint approaching to the study of the welfare. And the Marxist viewpoint, as you know, that the structure and processes are shaped by the mode of production. So whatever the mode of production is, the social structure and processes will be governed. And in the same view, we have to look into the welfare. Now there are certain terms which have been overlappingly used and which have been used in sometimes we find it quite difficult. I will just name few of the terms like social administration, public administration, social welfare administration, social work administration. There are number of terms which have been used, you will find when you will read the books related to this, and you will find quite confusing that what does it mean, even business administration. So, how you differentiate in these terms and how you come to understand that what you are trying to see and what you are trying to focus, we just give you that a little idea of that. So, when we are talking of the social welfare administration, we have told you that it is the process of transforming social policies into the social services or into the social programs or into to delivering the goods to the needy people. And these processes are efficiently providing resources and services to meet the need of individuals, families, groups, communities. It may be wide range of the people, whether in a one capacity of as individual or maybe in the group capacity. Tracker has interpreted that social welfare administration as a process of working with people, and here emphasis is on the with, not on the for. So, process of working with people in ways that release and relate their energies so that they use available resources to accomplish the purpose of providing needy community services and program. That has been the whole issue when we talk of the social welfare administration. The emphasis is on the social welfare, providing the services for a group of people, those who are in need, maybe because of any other reason, maybe because of the social structure, maybe because of the socio-political consideration, maybe because of their marginalization, whatever may be the reason. But when we use the word social work administration, probably here the emphasis is coming onto the social work as a discipline, and social worker as a functionary who is trying to administer the services. It may be related to a social work agency, and that is why it may be thought of an action of a staff member who utilizes social processes to transform the social policies of a particular welfare agency or a social agency into the delivery of services. So, the simple is that when social welfare administration is wider in concept and social work administration is limited, that it talks of one sense of the now, as we were repeatedly telling you that social welfare intends for the well-being of the people, and the social welfare policies and programs of any country depends on the nation systems of their programs and benefits, and the model which he has adopted for the welfare state. So, the terms like social administration, social work administration, public administration, when we talk of the public administration, this is a much wider in the sense that it talks of the public services, including civil services, including the management of the law and order and all those kind of, so even including police services, revenue services, they become all part of the public administration, a larger part of managing or administering the services. There is another very important issue when we talk of the social welfare administration. This is a very conceptual level that many a times people believe, that people questions which is larger, administration is a larger or management is a larger, whether administration is a part of management or the management is a part of administration. So, there is a long debate on that, and some people believe that administration is a larger viewpoint, management is one of the function of administration, while there is another viewpoint, those who believe that both have the equal space and they have the overlapping scope or overlapping processes, while other is which believes that management is larger and administration is a part of it. And number of times people give an example that I am an manager, but I am administering the services. But in a more terms, social administration is not a very distinct field, but multidisciplinary in approach. It is a multidisciplinary field of study, and essentially it is talking of the statutory welfare provisions which aims meeting the individual's needs. So, I am not going to create here much ruckus about the term social administration and social welfare administration, simply to say that social welfare administration is a subset of a social administration. Social administration is larger when we talk of the entire social institution delivering the services, and when we talk of the social welfare administration, it became the part, it is restricted to the welfare services or managing welfare provisions which requires any individuals or now very interestingly when we talk of this, that we have to talk how to translate this administration, or what is the function of social welfare administration, what are the principles on which the social welfare administration is to be done. Now, when we say the principles of social welfare administration, there are 10-11 principles which have been enlisted, and following the principles the task become much easier and it eases the way of working. So, the first principle, when we think in the social work discipline side, we say the principle of social work values. And what does it mean? That the values of the social work profession are foundation upon which services are developed and made available to person who needs them. So, what we will be trying to say, that any social welfare administrator has to follow a principle where I have to see whether the services required or the policies which are going to be translated, whether they are meeting out the values on which these services are based. We are providing some kind of services or offending the value base of that, probably it will be contradictory. Like, are we providing services after compromising the value of human dignity and birth? Or we are providing services, or we are administrating services where we are equally giving importance to the social work values like dignity of an individual. So, are we giving support? I mean, if I go in a very simple form, most common and simplest form, I would like to give you an example. Suppose if I am giving services, free services, free medical services to a poor people, are we giving as a doer or as a giver, or we have some kind of respect for the person who is receiving it? So, there is a very minor and thin, because the person is needy, may not be responding back, but how we are doing it, or whether we are not compromising with the dignity of an individual while providing the services based on what we call the principle of social work values. When we talk of the second principle, principles of the community and client needs, that means the services and program should be based on the needs of the community or needs of the clients. The need of the community and individual within it are always the basis for existence of a social agencies or provisions of the program. That means we have to see and we have to make it sure that the program provided by us or the services provided by a social welfare agency are in consonance with the need of the people or need of the community of the people. If they are not in consonance with this, you will find the many administrative problems, or it will be difficult to administer the services for that social welfare program. So, that is very important, I mean, in a rural area, if you are providing some kind of a services and those services are not required by the people, or they are not into the consonance of the needs of the people in relation to the needs of that particular community, probably this may not work. And this is a very common concept or common principle which you can see in number of places. And many a times when you see then something happens, there is a disaster or there is a relief program. In relief program or disasters, we provide services. We say that we are providing them cloths. And for that particular rural community, if the cloths are not of their own cultural values, like you are providing jeans to them, will they accept it? There will be contradiction, because their need and their cultural values and their requirements are different. What services? So, basically you are providing clothes to them, those who are needy, but those clothes are meaningless for them. They may not be required or this. So, the actual needs, the felt needs, the realized needs is the basis of this principle, that we have to see whether those needs means that what exactly the client or community is requiring, and are we providing those programs or whether our programs are according to their needs or not. There is another principle of agency purpose. Every social agency or every welfare agency here we are talking in terms of not a marketing agency or a motorcycle agency, we are saying the institution which is delivering the services. So, we call that term in the social service agency. Now, this social service agency has a purpose, and the purpose of a social service agency or any department or social welfare department or from grassroots to up wherever you apply, it should be clearly formulated, it should be clearly stated, it should be clearly understood by the people, those who are there, and it should be properly utilized, I mean executed in the same way. That means that social service agency, what is its purpose, what it wants to do, whether we have understood into that spirit or not. Suppose for an example that DRDA, District Rural Development Agency, doing certain kinds of rural development work, whether the people, those who are implementing the program of rural development, whether they have understood the spirit of that agency, the basic purpose or formulation. For like many days, I mean in the after the implementation of Manrega program, people were not knowing the exact spirit or sense of the Manrega program, that it intends to create the work. I mean many people were involving the mechanical instruments and like tractors and the bulldozers for doing a work. That was not the purpose. Purpose was to create the employment for the people and to ensure that they are getting. So they are digging it and they have got it done mechanically everything, and now the work is finished within 2 and 3 days. The purpose is that use of machinery as a support to the spirit of that program. The program, the first spirit is to create the work. So that's what we have to see, that any agency, suppose that we have a drug de-addiction counseling agency. So what is the purpose of that and how it has been focused? That is what the principle of agency purpose. The principle of cultural setting, as I was narrating while discussing the example of the rehabilitation, the culture of the community or cultural values of the community must be understood, and this as much as it influences the way needs are expressed and the way services are authorized or supported or utilized by the people who need them. That means the cultural aspect of the operation of a social service agency is very important, that people have the understanding while administering the service. The another principle is a purposeful relationship. For providing any kind of help or any kind of delivery of service, there must be a relationship between doer and the person for whom the services are being done. That means this relationship is the transmission belt through which the things are moving. And how strong this relationship is, how effective this relationship is, that's what the intent of using the word purposeful. Purposeful means that which has been purposefully developed between the agency and the people, those who are being beneficiaries. Now, this working relationship must be established between the person, administrator, and with the other people, other stakeholders. I mean with the board members, with the staff of the agency, with the beneficiaries, to whom we sometimes call the constituency of the agency where it is operating. So the principle of purposeful relationship and executing it into the practice is very important. Now this is also a very million-dollar question, how to establish the purposeful relationship. The agency has to be seen and understood in its totality, in its wholeness, not in part and pieces. Like for a drug addiction counseling center, suppose an agency is providing information about the basic information about the drugs, you can't use that only information for the other purposes, that how from where the cannabis is available, how the opium has to be used. It has to be seen into the totality, that the information, the purpose of the agency is what. So the program should also be the wholesome, not into the pieces and bits. The other important is the responsibility. Nowadays we are talking of much more of the accountability. We are talking of the responsibility. We are talking of the transparency. So when we say professional responsibility, I believe that a high quality professional services is based on the professional practice, and professional practice demand the certain formats of the good governance, of transparency, of accountability, of conduct, of ethical conduct, and the depiction of the moral values in the administration, which is nowadays you find some number of times that it is deficient. So this professional responsibility, who owns it, that is what more important. The another principle in the administration is the principle of participation, appropriate contribution of each one. I mean, whether it is the people, those who are running that social service agency, or the government who is responsible for that, or the private players, or the administration, or even the beneficiaries, their participation is a key of success, and there should be a continuous process of dynamic participation of the people. They keep on participating at different levels. Their nature of the participation may be different, So participation has to be seen into the realistic term, not into the terms of numbers, that for any social agency, if there is any program, you have called 100 people and 100 people are sitting there. But are they aware about the purpose of that agency? That's the part of ensuring part of the social welfare administration. And for doing this, what is required is the open channel of communication. So the principle of communications are essential. Not much emphasizing in this, everybody knows that communication is the heart of any organization. And if an organization has to work and organization have to be administered, its administrator have to make sure that there is a free flow communication. With any program, with any constituency, whether it is a welfare program or social program, or even it is a business program, what the principle of communication is one which is considered to be the heart of all the principles. So that is what is important. Now, when we talk of the administration and we talk of the organization, we cannot omit or we cannot reduce the concept of the leadership or the principle of leadership. The administrator must carry major responsibility for the leadership of the agency in terms of goal attainment, fixation of goals, fixation of targets, the strategies made for it, directing it, providing provision of the professional services. That is what the principle of. Now, you have too many principles when you go and want to do something, but always remember there is a one principle which is called principle of planning. If your planning is successful, if you have planned the things beautifully, you have already made the considerations of the possible barriers, then your work implementation is much easier. Visualizing various problems, various phases, various steps, engagement of people, requirement, needs, the process of continuous planning is fundamental to the development of a meaningful service. Running an organization, social welfare organization, or delivering a social welfare service or any social service, what is most required is that topmost of the principle is, which I am narrating you at the last, is that the principle of the planning. So the principle of planning is very important in the sense that how well you plan it, and your planning also depend with other principle, whether this planning is a democratic planning or whether this planning is your own autocratic way of doing things, whether you are getting the requisite inputs from top and bottom both sides, whether this planning is a top-down planning, or it's planning coming from the bottom side, whether you are involving the feedback of the earlier programs, whether in this planning you are involving or you are considering the experiences or the past learning. I think that makes a lot of sense when we talk of the principle of planning. So, to keep in the mind that planning is one which has to be kept into the consideration since the beginning. I mean, these principles are what? Principles makes your work much easier. If you understand that these are the principles and you accept them in their spirit, they makes the task of organization or task of administrator or task of person much easier. The whole thing is that principles are tested hypotheses or tested propositions in long term of time during the practice. So, they are very well accepted and they make they work much easier to any one of that. Now, if I go to what requires a social welfare administration require, it requires faith in the philosophy and methods of social welfare. When I say faith in philosophy and methods of social welfare, that means it convinces you with the question of why. While you want to do something, there are the two aspects which I normally convey, as one as a why and other as a how. Why you have to do it, what is the logic behind that, what is the reasoning behind that, you have tried to understand, and whether you have a faith in one particular welfare approach, whether you believe into its postulates, whether you agree to its propositions, or whether you like the ways of doing that. I think unless you are convinced, you can't do the administration. If I believe that peoples are useless and peoples don't do anything, if I believe that my entire staff is worthless, then any plan or any administration I can't do in my agency, because I don't believe in my staff. If I believe that people have the faith or people can deliver, then you have to motivate them, you have to build their capacities, you have to energize them, you have to create a synergy among your staff. That's what I am saying, that whether you have a faith, what is your personal propositions and what is your professional learning, what is your professional requirements, when you club them, personal and professional together, I think the more success you get as an administrator. And in welfare it becomes very important, because you are directly responding thousands of the people, those who are in need of your services and looking forward towards you. Similarly, we have, while we talk of the state has provided a large number of social legislation. When we say the social legislation, they have their own purposes. I mean, certain social legislations are promotive, they promote the good practices. Certain social legislations are preventive in nature, they try to prevention of immoral trafficking, prevention of child labor practices. Certain social legislation has a purpose of prohibition. So, prevention, prohibition, promotion, then protection. If you have a knowledge of social legislation, what your legislation intends and how its services has to be delivered, that is a part or that is a function of social welfare administration. So, you have to categorize, you have to see that how it is taking shape. Many legislations are persuasive also in nature, they are protective. And when we talk of the social welfare administration, we talk of the familiarity with the social work practice. As such, whole social work profession and its practice becomes very important. So, social welfare administration is not to be seen in isolation or as a method all stand alone. It has to be seen as a method in relation to the other method. Maybe like research, you require for your social welfare administration number of a time in research, you need the social research for that, or you need the community organization for that. So, it depends that your familiarity with the social work practice, its ethos, its values, its principles, its postulates, how social work profession believe, its professional code of conduct, its responsibilities towards different constituencies, whether towards the agency, towards the people, towards the government, towards the state, it is what social, it requires the. So, a good administration requires the deep underpinning of the philosophical tenets. It also requires the underpinning of the programs. It requires the underpinning of the whole environment. It requires the knowledge about the community or the people to whom they are delivering the services. Now, when we talk of the administration, we talk of the organization, because when you have to do administration, you have to do through an organization. And in social welfare system, we have the three ways of creating a voluntary organization or a organization what we call for the welfare of others, and you know that they are being required to be created under three legislations which we call Society Registration Act, the Companies Act of 1956, where you make a company and later on you get an exemption as a non-profit company. So, it is interesting that the government of India or the state has thought of creating a non-profit company where the profit has to be utilized for the welfare of the people. And third one is the Indian Trust Act, where the somebody believes and poses the trust and create a trust for the certain purposes. So, this is what. Now I will quickly cover some of the other aspect of the social welfare administration. Like there are many other aspects of the social welfare administration. This was talking of the functions like fundraising, like project proposal development, like if we go to SWOT analysis of an organization. SWOT analysis means that we should know our organization, its strength, its weaknesses, opportunities and threats. The log frame analysis, the participatory research. Fundraising I said because every organization required, so will let me tell you later on little bit about the fundraising and financial administration of an organization. And the social welfare administration of social welfare in India is being done at various levels. It is on the local level, it is on the state level, it is on the central level. Local level you have social welfare agencies, even at government system. So, you have both the parallel system. State level you have a directorate of social welfare. At central level you have a very specialized department of social welfare. You have a ministry of social welfare, which we call Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment. You have a parallel organizations like Central Social Welfare Board, like the other organizations which provide the services. So, if you have to create the structure, you have to see that at local level what are the social welfare agencies are available for the different specialized group, for the deaf and dumb, to the disabled, to the children, to women, to the crime victim, or number of agencies, and how they are connected with the whole structure from center to up to down. So, the administration of social welfare services in India is at various level. This is just our. Now, last but very important is, and no discussion is complete if we do not consider the post-corp. The processes of social welfare institution, administrative processes, and while we are saying administrative processes, this post-corp is a acronym which involve P for planning, O for organizing, S for staffing, D for directing, Co for cooperation, reporting, budgeting. This is seven functions of the administration, which has been propounded by Luther Gulick, and this has been Luther Gulick has been the classical management thinker who propounded this, and later on it has been revised, and this post-corp has been used other than many social welfare organizations. So, it is not that it has been given only for social welfare organization, it can be used in other kind of organizations. So, this is a very important and considered to be the heart of the social welfare administration, and this acronym describes the function of a manager or a administrator in an organization. Some of them I have already discussed with you, but again I will put it into the same sequence of the post-corp, and that is what we call planning. I have already spoken on to the planning. If you want to definition of a planning, then planning is a selecting information and making assumptions regarding the future to formulate activities necessary to achieve organizational objectives. That means if you want to break this definition, it will break into the 5 pieces. Planning is a selecting information, number 1, making assumptions regarding the future, number 2, number 3, to formulate activities, number 4, necessary to achieve organizational objectives. So you can see that this definition is Terry and Franklin. There are many other definitions. I have just chosen for this. Planning, I have already said that it's very essential, and how to plan, how to involve the people, how to have a correlations with the objective of the agency, how to see it into the needs of the people. So planning cannot be done in vacuum. Planning has to be more realistic, which has to be based on the different other aspects of that. And the second is the organizing, about the organization, means establishing effective behavioral relationship among persons so that they may work together efficiently, gain personal satisfaction in doing selected tasks under given environmental condition for the purpose of achieving same goals. You know what I try to do, that to put many things into one selected form. You can divide it when you want to write it in number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. So organizing is a function of a manager, and it talks about the different kinds of organization and the organizing activities. The staffing, this is most important thing. This is most important function. It deals about the staff, human resource, what we call nowadays. You see, the nomenclature changes with the changes in value and development of the society. Sometimes back we used to call laborer. Then we started using term worker. Then we started using term employee. Then we started using term human resource. You know, so this is a progressive terminology, and there is a value hidden into it. But when we talk of staffing here, we are talking of functions related to this human resource or these employees, and it starts from one R to another R. Recruiting to retirement, and in between is retainment. So recruiting, retainment and retirement. Now in this process, this is not sufficient when we say recruitment. It's required recruitment, placement, training, development of these employees. So you are talking of their morale building, you are talking of motivation, you are talking them promotion, you are talking of discipline also, you are talking of disciplinary action. So the implies performance. Any organization is as good as it is implies performance source. So the organizations do not do anything. In fact, people in the organizations do things. People make the organization as a good or bad, and this staff has to be taken carefully. So right from the selection, their retention, their promotion to their retirement, considering their needs like social security, needs like conditions of service, needs like working condition, they all are the part of management. So you can say what you used to call personnel management in early times, now we call it HR management, or we can say it's HR function. So this is what staffing is. Following this staffing is a very important principle of directing and decision making. D can denote for both, but it's more reported for directing and decision making also. Directing means that the one managerial function is guiding people. You have the best people in your organization, but as a leader, you are not in position to guide them what to do, because people look forward to leaders to lead, to provide them input. Whether people always say people do not work, it's not the question people do not work. Probably it can be said other way, that the masters or the boss or administrator is not capable of taking work from them. So it is where you are putting the onus, on the employees or on the boss. Directing is a very important function for guiding, supervising, leading the people, motivating the people, putting them into the innovation. If you can't motivate your people, they will never innovate. If you scold your employees all the time, they will never perform. Performance level will dip down. There are large number of management theories, and decision making is also very equally important. What kind of decisions you are taking, how you take decisions, what type of decisions, they all are functions of the and fall under the social welfare administration. Reporting. I also say reporting includes the recording also. Reporting means the structure through which superiors and juniors are being linked in a chain, what you call the unity of command, or what you call the hierarchical chain in an organizational organogram, how the reporting is being done from lower to keeping superior informed about the various aspects of work, including progress of the various programs, problems in implementation, problems related to the staff, problem related to the material. Reporting is done at every level, and reporting is not to be seen something derogatory. It is to be seen something communicative, sharing, caring, rearing. I mean, that kind sense, if you take the reporting, it is always good, and then organization flourish. In that process, when we said CEO coordinating, cooperating, and the last word is the budgeting. The word budgeting originally meant a bag, a pouch, a pocket attached to a person. And in modern sense, budget is a complete statement regarding organization's income and expenditure of the financial year in one financial year, and the estimation for the next financial year. So the organization budget is related to the finance. Normally it is approved by the controlling authority or board of director or governing council. In the case of a state, it is by the assembly or parliament. So budgeting is equally important, because you know that this much money is available for your work. That's what very important for the budgeting. Now I have not discussed much. I told you that fundraising practice and community mobilization I will be talking to here. So when we talk of the financial administration, this is another area which is very important into the social welfare administration, and it talks of the fundraising. Fundraising, it may be through community members, through people coming from the beneficiaries, or maybe sponsors, or some kind of people, those who have a similar heart for similar cause. That's what we call fundraising. And in India, fundraising is a very poor performance. Though we are very charitable people, very humanitarian people, but still there is need to do lot about the fundraising in a country. And there need to be the many innovative ways into the country. Every person want to give something to the society in its own way. Some people want to give the money, but you know what prevents them? The integrity of the organization. They always want to know whether how their money is being used by others. This is very important. That is why people restrict themselves for not giving money. So fundraising is an art, it is a science. It is to be taught for hours together to the organization, and how to involve the community into the fundraising program. There is another way of financial administration, very important. It is a grant in aid. Grant in aid is a term which is used by the state or central government to provide the financial support to an NGO or to an agency, and in form of a grant to running a particular social welfare program. While we talk of the grant in aid, there are rules by the state government or by central government or by any government which provides the grant on certain terms and conditions, which looks into the organizational history, even the people, those who are running these organizations, what we call in NGOs the board of governors or the executive committee. So government gives grant and aid to those organizations who are considered deserving in their eyes and who fulfill certain terms and conditions. Then there is annual budgeting, that's also part of the financial administration. Annual budgeting means that you have a plan how you will spend the money. Like government, when what is the problem in the government is government has a very good heart. It gives lot many money to the good number of programs. But the flow of fund becomes like this, that many programs where you have given 20,000 crores, only 2,000 crores is being spent up to December. That means 18,000 has to be spent from January to March. Government is not able to make that flow of fund very easier and clear cut and concise. So giving 20,000 crore is a good idea, but when you spend it, at what rate, which month, when it is required or after it is a requirement, that makes poor financial administrator. Many times I considered that in government, social welfare administration, the social welfare administrator in governments are poor financial makers. They are not able to make they are able to make annual budget, but they are not able to spend them as per the requirement. Then other thing are accounting, very important. Why accounting is important? Because it has to be seen, every money, single penny spent must be recorded, because it's taxpayer money and you are answerable to the people, those who have given you money. So it has to be properly accounted and its document must be properly kept, and there are principles of accounting, and this is a separate branch, requires separate. But as an administrator, one should have at least basic knowledge and control over the accounting processes or knowledge. After accounting, there is another process called auditing, to see whether account has been properly maintained, money has been properly utilized, it has been properly recorded or not. So this is what we call the financial administration. There are some other function in social welfare administration. I will call them public relations, say good governance, transparency, disclosure in public domain. So I would like to mention these one as a sum of other areas, since time is not much there. I've been forced here to stop, and I think that you will be able to understand in nutshell, which I tried to weave in from the social welfare concept to the functions up to the end.
Right, so thank you so much for talking about social welfare administration, and since we have a few minutes left, we could probably squeeze in a question here and ask you, does the administration of an NGO fall under social welfare administration, sir? Could you talk about this? It is,
and what is a NGO? NGO is a non-governmental organization, which I told you under the 3 laws it has been made. It is committed for some very specific social welfare purposes, and it is committed for welfare or development purposes. That's mean it is a social welfare or social development agency, and it requires a social welfare administration, right. And knowledge of all this may be helpful in running an NGO.
Right.
Unfortunately, many NGOs people run only by heart, yes, not by mind. So what I say that the combination of heart and combination of mind works much better. Social work education provides training. Training is something what mind. You learn the art of doing things.
Right.
And if you have a passion in heart, that is added advantage.
Right.
So I think your question is very good and very important. Concisely, I would like to answer in brief that yes, for NGO, even this social welfare administration, its purposes, its methods, its skills, how to do that is very essential. And I believe that most of the NGO leaders or the people must learn this art and must read about this.
Right. Okay. Thank you, sir. Sir, another question would be that talking about the role of a social welfare administrator, is the role, say, particular to all disciplines in general, or does a social welfare administrator perform a specific role? It's just different from other administrators.
Look how we evaluate the role of anyone. social welfare administrator is to run a social welfare agency or a welfare program, or you can call it a development program. That's mean his role is to execute the program through his organization meaningfully.
Right.
That's mean it requires management of organization, one, and implementation of the programs, two. If he is pass on both account, I think his role is good enough. If he is not able to perform, some people are able to deliver the services, but they lose the organization.
Right.
So, you know, this become one man organization. Till he is there, everything will work. When he is not there, suddenly everything will collapse.
Right.
That's why for running an organization, you need systems, you need structures. You create a structure, you create system and run the organization.
Right.
So my advice to most of the NGOs or welfare organizations or development organization is to gain the knowledge about the administrative processes, and the method of social welfare administration can be very useful for them.
Right, sir. Sir, also when we were talking about the principles of social welfare administration, we talked about the purpose of the program. So talking about the purpose of the NGO, so how does the purpose, how is it usually conveyed so that everybody knows about it?
Look, what happens when you formulate, this is a different reality. When someone creates an NGO, there is a clause called objectives of the organization. If you look at the constitution of any NGOs, remember their article of association or the purpose of a statement, why this organization, they have 20 objectives in that. Nothing they leave on what can be done on the earth. So they will say this organization will run dharamsala, hostels, buildings, it will run library, schools, it will make the programs for scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBC, everything they will do.
All right.
I am saying that organizations should have an objectives which are achievable.
Right.
Not a dream objectives.
Definitely.
And too many objectives.
Definitely,
so I
sir.
think there is need to train the people on that
Right.
side also.
Right. So friends, as we draw to the close, and of course sir has been very kind and generous to spare his time and also answer our questions relating the topics. So let us thank sir for being here today, and we close the lecture for today. Thank you and have a great day. Keep watching.